Hey, it's Andy Yanez, and you're watching another episode of Let's Rage Coogs, the first inaugural Let's Rage Coogs of the men's basketball season, and what a triumph that was for the number 3 ranked team in the entire country. The Houston Cougars put a beating on Northern Colorado. A final score: Houston was victorious 83-36 over Northern Colorado, and to be quite frank, probably wasn't even that close, Chris, when in regards to how that matchup went. It was really lopsided, and honestly, what we expected. In particular, I believe the line heading into the game, at least yesterday, was at about 21 points. So that was covered by the University of Houston. Really a very successful opening game for Houston. Chris, what were your overall thoughts?
The better team won, obviously. Your guarantee was correct. You said Cougs would cover the 21, and they did by 47. They won by 47. Defense carries the offense. That's the Cougar basketball. They play defense. They rebound. Marcus Sasser started off kind of slow, missing, I think, his first 3 shots. But he finished the game 7 for 14 from the floor. Scored a game high 21 points. Contribution from everybody is a Coug win. As Coach Sampson said to us post-game, anybody complaining about Jarris Walker's 3 for 14 shooting, he had 12 rebounds, 6 offensive and 6 defensive, just like a Coug does. So Jarris Walker did just fine tonight. No worries about his shooting whatsoever.
I'm waiting to bring in Dayon on the show. I'm not sure. He's disappeared from the screen, so I'm waiting for him to give me a signal before he can get on. But Chris, like you mentioned, it top to bottom, I think very clearly, it was very clear that Marcus Sasser was the best player on the court tonight against Northern Colorado, and his first game since he suffered that broken foot injury a year ago, over close to a year ago now. He suffered that injury Christmas week, which Kelvin Sampson always mentions it throughout how bad it was during that Christmas week for the Cougars. But he had 21 points. He shot 4 of 8 from 3. His shot looked really, really good. I mean, he just looked comfortable overall, which not too surprising. But as we bring in Dayon Dunlap. Dayon, how you doing, sir? Dan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sweet. We're just talking about Marcus Sasser. What were your takeaways from seeing Marcus Sasser play against Northern Colorado? From our viewpoint, he was clearly the best player on the court.
Yeah, it looked like Marcus Sasser we've seen throughout his entire career. Shot looked good, finished around the rim looked good. Didn't force any shots, let the game come to him. Pretty look like Marcus that I'm used to seeing.
For sure. And on that note, we before we shout it out and send what Marcus Sasser had to say post game in regards to him being back, we have to give a shout out to, you see there, Chris, we have a whole line of sponsors now. We have Hoop and Holler, Houston Sports Micro Collective. They are the entity behind Star Pizza commercials, which now Star Pizza in and of itself, they are their own sponsor as well. So big props to Mike Pittman for being able to put that together. And we have a new sponsor not seen in regard to the football Let's Rage Coogs, but the Fritz Kennel on 9513 Yopandel on Houston, Texas. Be sure to check them out, and thanks to them for being a sponsor throughout November for the men's basketball shows of Let's Rage Coogs. And on that note, we'll toss it over to Marcus Sasser and hear what he had to say post-game on his first game back in almost a full calendar year for the Cougars.
Familiar faces and new faces.
Right. It was, exciting, fun. A lot of emotions, really. It's been like almost 11 months since I've been, out there with these group of guys. So being out there with them tonight, it was real fun and exciting to see all the hard work we've been putting in since June, to see it pay off. And, it was fun to go out there and just build our chemistry, from game one.
Marcus, I saw him after you hit one of those threes early in the second half. You kind of let out an expression, kind of yelled to the crowd. Was there, like a specific moment where you're kind of like, all right, I'm back out here?
Yeah, that was probably one of the moments, being able to play in front of that fan base. It's always fun to play in front of them. And then, just hitting that three in transition from a great pass Jamal did. And what's crazy is I talked to him right before they played. So, when I did make it, just let out all the expression. So, yeah.
once again, there you heard Marcus Sasser speaking post-game on really being out on the court for the first time in almost a calendar year. And you kind of segueing a little bit there because he mentioned Jamal Shed, and Jamal Shed had a really strong performance when it came to a facilitator. He had 9 assists, only 1 turnover. I mean, really, he was the floor general for Houston, and big shouts to him because he was able to just pass it around, especially with Northern Colorado, what they were doing. They played 2-3 zone for the entire game, it looked like there, and really Houston, it never seemed like they were in a rush. They were always patient when they were in their half court set.
It took the Cougs a while to adjust to the zone defense in the first half because, as Coach Sampson, anybody who follows the Cougs knows, the Cougars do not practice against zone very often. They go against zone, I think Coach said, one day so far this season. They've practiced against the zone once. So any struggles offensively against the zone is expected because the Cougs go against man-to-man every day. That's how they defend. Every day is man-to-man. So the zone gave them some issues. Second half was much better. But we got to say, we kind of dropped the ball here. The win was great. It was Coach Sampson's 700 in his career, 200th win as a coach of the Houston Cougars. And as Stephen Hiller says in the comments, Kelvin Sampson is a leader. So kudos to Coach Sampson for getting 200 for UH wins and 700 in his career. And whoever it was, we got to give credit to the UH staff for that video board presentation they did after the game. Former players throughout Coach's career, congratulating him for win number 700 in his great career.
Oh, absolutely, Chris. You hit it right on the head, especially when it came to the video package. That's something that Kelvin Sampson himself said that's the moment that got him when he got to see all his former players, even some former coaches as well. Here's what Kelvin Sampson had to say specifically, about reaching that milestone: 700 career wins, 200 at the University of Houston. That's a lot of wins.
Mind when you're watching all the former players?
No, that's what got me, which tells you that it's not my 700 wins, it's our 700 win. You know, so it was so good to see Joe McClafferty, who was one of my first recruits way back in 1981, 42 years ago, and I'm looking at him up there, and I still remember going to Butte Central High School to see Joe. So proud of him and his family. He's got a daughter that's a MD, a doctor, and he's got another daughter that's an attorney. He's got a son that's works in finance. He and his wife, Therese, are just awesome people. DJ White was the Big Ten Player of the Year, first round draft choice from Thunder. Nate Hinton, LeBron Barnes. Wes Van Beck. I mean, those are my dudes. I mean, those are my guys. I mean, their handprint and everything that they've accomplished is on this ball. You know, it's fitting that Karen was out there. I mean, she's been with me longer than anybody. You know, we're basically young kids. And we 23 years old when we got married, 24 we're renting a U-Haul truck driving from North Carolina to East Lansing, Michigan, and next year next summer we're at East Lansing, Butte, Montana, and we didn't know nothing. So, but I appreciated, first of all, I appreciate whoever put that together. You know, Darren Selby, who was so scatterbrained when I coached him at Oklahoma. All those guys just turn out to be such great people, and you know, and all these guys I have now. You know, you have so many teams. This is my 34th different team, and I love them all. You know, they may not know it at the time, but as time goes on, they realize the impact we have on each other.
So once again, that was Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson talking about those 700 wins and really kind of taking a really good kind of a window into his life. You know, I mean, starting way back whenever he got his first career win to now, it's really been a journey for Houston. And I mean, I think it's kind of interesting too when you think about it. He's notched 200 career wins at Houston. He's now, this is his first win entering his 9th season here in Houston, but just what he's been able to do here at Houston is honestly astonishing. It's a grand achievement.
It is for sure. Let me ask you guys, because I'm kind of curious. I was thinking about it off the top of my head. How many of those wins was Fabian White a part of? 100 and how many? Because I mean, just think about that. Fabian has been around for, what is that? 65% of coaches' wins at Houston. Spectacular career for Fabian, whatever it is, 50%, 55, whatever. It's a lot. So, and Fabian White was part of the video tribute as well to Coach Sampson. So, as we got, let me put this up. We're having fun here at the inaugural Let's Rage Coogs here. It's going to be a great season. I think everyone believes that, expects that, looking forward to it. But 700 wins over career, 200 as coach of the Houston Cougars in 8 seasons plus 1 going into the 9th season just started. So, Dan, what are your thoughts on Houston's defense tonight against Loyola, Colorado?
I think that's the highlight of the night. Really is the defense. I think offensively is pretty much what I expected as far as what I've seen from them. But defensively, they look like a well-oiled machine. They play it on one accord like they normally do, close it out, nothing easy, especially playing a guard that's averaged over 20 points and not allowing anyone to score in double digit, only 10 made field goals. I mean, that defense was something that it travels. And that's what you hear a lot from the program is that defense travels. You're not always going to make shots. But when you play defense and defend the way they do, it was very, very, very impressive.
And you touched on it. Dalen Kuntz was their leading scorer. He scored 3 points tonight against the Cougs and was 0 for 9 from the floor going against Marcus Sasser and Jamal Shed. So those 2 guards for the Cougs lead the way. They are the head of the snake defensively, and they took out Dalen Kuntz from the game, and that's made him a non-factor. Big reason for the huge win for Houston tonight.
Yep, and Jamal, he controlled the pace of the game, really, on defense and offense, specifically offense. Never rushed anything. I always got them in their sets, made sure that they moved the ball, got everyone good looks and good spots, got Jaywan a couple easy looks with those, him being in the dunk spot. And so he had a very, very impressive game as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you guys mentioned the defense because, Chris, you were there. You heard Kelvin Sampson talk about kind of along the lines of a non-negotiable when it comes to Houston and their standard. He said before any player can become a great player for the University of Houston, the first thing they got to do is they got to learn how to practice with the program. And it starts with being able to instill a lot of really those cornerstones for Houston in the program. And in particular, it comes to defense because, Dan, it's funny that you mentioned it, that one thing we know that Houston's going to do night in and night out is defend. Really, Kelvin, it's like you were in the press conference just a few minutes ago because Kelvin Sampson literally said that, and he went back gave an example of what happened last year in the Elite Eight. Even though Houston was held to 44, Villanova was held to 50 points, and Houston had a chance right there to pull out a win in the Elite Eight behind such an abysmal shooting night they had from the three-point line. And that's something that's become the identity for Houston teams year in and year out.
The Cougs scored 32 points in the first half on 33% shooting, but were up 19 points at the half because of their defense. They limited the Bears to 21% shooting in the first half, 4 for 19. So the Bears made 4 shots in the first half and 6 in the second half. That's 10. 10 field goals out of 39 attempts. Houston forced numerous shot clock violations. They disrupted a lot of what the Bears wanted to do offensively. So it's a hallmark of the Houston culture. It's defense first. Dan, you said it. Defense travels. So even when the Cougs, and they're going to have a lot of games probably, potentially this season, where they don't shoot well from the floor. But the defense will keep them in the game in every game they play this season.
Defense and rebounding, those are 2 things as what they're known for, and that's what they did well tonight. And also, I was looking at the rotation. That was the one thing that I wanted to keep an eye on was the rotations. I know, but one thing that made Coach Sampson great is on a nightly basis, he lets the game tell his own story, so the rotations could switch at any time. But with it being the first game of the season, I wanted to see who was that first guard coming off the bench, who's the officials, the starters, and some of the different lineups that they use. And so, with the length, I think Jerry's he I didn't realize as he is as big as he is and as tall as he is. So although he's a power forward and can really play some three, even I think once he get to the next level. But in college, he can play some five. I think some teams he's going to be guarding some fives because he's so tall and so long and so physically gifted, physically strong. And so I was really impressed with just his size. He struggled shooting the ball, but he dominated the glass. You can see, especially in that second half before they took him out, what they're going to be doing as far as isolating him in that mid post area where they used to feed Fabian and his ability to whether face up, take you off the dribble, back you down, and just finish with both hands. His supreme athleticism was on display tonight. I can't wait to see him continue developing this system.
And let me say before Andy jumps in, anybody who watched the games in person on ESPN Plus, Coach Sampson said after in post game, Jarris's injury was cramps. Okay, muscle cramps in his stomach. That's what it was. It was cramps. So anybody, and kudos to somebody who tweeted at me, well, hopefully it's just cramps. Well, that's what it was. So good call. That's all it was. It wasn't a muscle tear or anything major. And Coach Sampson, it was a funny post game. I mean, it really was a funny post game. So where the Coogs content solution posted on YouTube or wherever they're going to post it in entirety, check it out because there were some funny comments, great stories being told. But yes, Jarris Walker has just stomach cramps. That's what it was.
Another player that got out to a good start was Jamon Mark. I really liked the way he looked. You could tell his body really developed a lot, and he didn't look as well he's going to look when going against man to man because the zone they wanted to keep the guards in front of him, not because they knew they couldn't guard Houston one on one. But his ability to shoot the three, he made. I know in the first half, when I last time I looked at the score, he was 2 for 3. So I don't know if he shot any more threes, but he made his first two, and his shot looked really good, his form and everything. So and he defended really well and rebounded really well. That's one thing I told Andy that I was looking for. Which guard is going to rebound? Because over these last 4 or 5 years, Houston has had one guard that rebounded really well. I think Jamon is going to be the one that's going to rebound really well this year.
For sure. And a couple things before we play the final clip that we have of Kelvin Sampson kind of talking more in depth of this game against Northern Colorado. But Dayon, you mentioned it. Jarris Walker struggled shooting from the field, but that didn't matter. Chris, you mentioned at the top of the show what Kelvin Sampson said. What really mattered for Houston was that other ways he was able to impact the game, in particular on the offensive glass. And we know that that's another one of the calling cards for the Houston Cougars is offensive rebounding. He had 6 offensive rebounds, and I think it's kind of key. And I can't. It was a play in the first half when Houston had 4 offensive rebounds in one possession, and it led to Marcus Sasser 3. And there was 3 different players that got in an offensive rebound for Houston, and that really just exemplifies the identity that Houston has been able to build. We expect this, those plays from Houston is something that Kelvin Sampson has said countless times. You know, they have to be able to be a good second, third, fourth shot, or in this case, a 5th shot team, being able to beat opponents in that way. But Dayon, you hit it right on the head when it comes to Tremont Mark too. He hit his first 2 threes. He certainly, I agree when it comes to the way he's been able to look, especially early on. This is barely the first game, and what we saw in the limited times that we have been able to see him throughout October, he certainly looks much more comfortable as a scorer, at least from my viewpoint. And like you mentioned, when it comes to that first guard that came off the bench for Houston, it was Ramon Walker, which that's something Sampson had. I believe it was last week where he had mentioned, that experience he was able to get under his belt a season ago. Was really what put him ahead of some of the other guards. But Ramon Walker did well. He, of course, just minutes after he checked into the game, both he and Reggie Chaney were diving for a loose ball not too long after. So, again, top to bottom, that's just the identity that Houston's been able to create and already playing to in game 1.
And Dayon touched on about who's going to rebound from the guard spot. Jamon Mark had 5 boards. Terrence Arsenal had 4 boards coming off the bench. So there's a 2 guard you're going to count off rebounding. Juwan Roberts had 6. Big man J.V. Francis, long-armed man J.V. Francis had 3 blocks. So the Cougs might have a different look for people defensively this year with shot blocking from J.V. Francis. So it's just Jarris Walker had a block shot that he swatted into the seats to kind of send a message early in the game. So defensively, he did his role defensively. Shots will come and go. He'll be fine there. He didn't make shots tonight at a high clip. No worries. He got done in other aspects of basketball, and he played like a Houston Cougar. He bought into the culture early, and that's a great sign going forward.
Yeah, it is a great sign going forward. I can't wait to see him continue development. I like the way the freedom he plays with. He seemed free out there. Shots just didn't fall. But another player that looked really good in limited minutes, of course, off the bench. I'm sure we're talking about him later. Emmanuel Sharp, but also Ramon Walker. He didn't play that much, but his body, he looked like a football player out there. Like on TV, he looked yoked. And I know his dad was in the NFL. He got good genetics, made his first 3. He didn't really take many shots. He knows his role, and he's going to be really good. But I think the rotational player, that's what I can't wait to see. And because Tremonis, I think he's going to shine even more when the floor is spread in that 9 in that zone because he's a scorer. He can shoot, but I think he can score, especially on all 3 levels. Mid-range, he can get inside and play make. And so I just can't wait to see them continue to play. First game of the year. Looked like the first game to me. I didn't really put much in stock to this game, but they look dominant like they're supposed to.
Oh, yeah, they look dominant. And 10 guys played as a 9-man rotation for most of the game. And then Emmanuel Sharp came in and scored 11 points in 7+ minutes. So it could be a 10-man rotation this season. And it's 10 talented players. 10 versatile players for the Cougs, and they have the flexibility to give teams different looks. I know Coach Sampson has talked about it a few times that he's been too deep. Every team has been too deep since he's been here. But this year's depth is a little different. I think if we're being, from our perspective, outside looking in, this team is the most talented team that Coach Sampson has had at Houston. Now they got to combine that talent with toughness. And then we'll see, once they do that, how far the team can go.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll play the final clip from Kelvin Sampson's post-game availability, where he talked much more specifically about how this game against Northern Colorado went. But first, once again, I'd like to give a shout-out to the sponsors of today's Let's Rage Coogs, Hoop and Holler, the Houston Cougar Sports Micro Collective. They're the entity behind those great commercials that you see with Star Pizza, the D'Anthony Jones commercial, the Hawk commercial, that if you've watched Let's Rage Coogs for the football show, you've seen it throughout our show. And obviously those commercials are in a partnership with Star Pizza. So those two are kind of partnered together, but Hoop and Holler is the entity behind the Star Pizza commercials. Of course, we have to give shout out to Star Pizza because they're not just making commercials about anything else. They're making it about the pizza. And one of these days, Chris, you and I have to go down there and try some Star Pizza because they have been so wonderful, being one of the original sponsors for Let's Rage Coogs. And a new face on Let's Rage Coogs, the Fritz Kennel, for being a sponsor during the men's basketball season. They were gracious enough to be able to join us this November to be a sponsor of Let's Rage Coogs during the men's basketball season. And on that note, we'll send it over to Kelvin Sampson and what he had to say, his thoughts after the Northern Colorado game.
Well, we always have a game plan, defensive strategy, scheme, whatever you want to call it. We just always hung our hat on defense here. There's 3 things that it's allowed us to be successful year in, year out, regardless of what team it is we defend, we rebound, and we take care of the ball. Now, the Coombs kid had 25 in the first half last year at Arizona. He's a really good player, probably one of the top 2 players in his conference. He and Johnson, who had averaged 14 a game last year, they had 0 at halftime between them. Nothing against those guys, but they had Jamal Shedd and Marcus Sasser guarding them. We've always built our defense from the point of attack back. Jamal's the point of attack. Marcus is, we work on angles and stance and playing with our feet, which is why they were able to defend at a high level, and not because they weren't in foul trouble. In the two scrimmages, we couldn't keep the other two teams off the foul line because we were fouling too much. That was how those teams scored on us mostly, was at the foul line. So we spent a lot of time working on angles and playing with our feet, getting our hands off of it. We brought referees in, and I told them, call it tight. Anybody that had 2 fouls in the same possession, accountability. So everything we do is accountability, man. I do not say that's okay. No, there is accountability. Our standards, our expectations, our accountability starts with our defense. We're not always going to shoot well. That's okay. Most teams don't shoot well against us either. Villanova shot 28% against us. But we were in that game because we could defend and rebound, just like tonight. I think Marcus missed his first 3 or 4 shots, something like that. Jarris looks like he was trying to throw it in one of those side pockets on the pool table. He couldn't get it to go in. But look what he did. He came in here in his first game as a Cougar. What did he do? 6 offensive rebounds, 6 defensive rebounds. So the first guy to sign the bubble for us officially tonight was Jarris Walker. I could care less about 3 for 14. You got to be pretty shallow if that's how you're going to judge his night. You judge his night by how he balled into Cougar basketball, and I thought he was awesome tonight. He really helped himself with his teammates. He defended, he rebounded, and he's extremely unselfish. But as the season goes on, nerves, emotion, adrenaline, nothing like the first game. That's why November basketball is nothing like January basketball, February basketball. We've got a lot of work to do with this bunch. We're a long way from being as good as we can be. But we just, most years when everybody's, whatever people are saying about us, outside of us, doesn't matter. It's not really important to us because it doesn't. When we practice in there, there's nobody in there. How we prepare when nobody's watching prepares us for when everybody's watching.
So once again, that was Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson. There you heard him touch on, again in particular, in regards to other performance that Jarris Walker had. I want to pivot to on the topic of freshmen, in particular, one of the other guards, Dayon, like you mentioned, Emmanuel Sharp. He only played 7 minutes and 41 seconds, but he caught fire late. And let me tell you, Chris, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Seeing him live, his shot is, and you've seen much more basketball than me, so I'm curious to see what you think of his shot. But to me, that's one of the quickest releases I've seen anyone live in my time. So I'm curious to get your thoughts. And obviously he has the touch. He hit 3 threes in such a short stretch, and he got the Fertitta Center rocking in a game that they were up 83-36, which is absurd.
He's got a quick release on his shot, and he might, in due time, be the second best 3-point shooter on the team behind Marcus Sasser. He's got to improve his defense, as Coach Sampson joked about in post game. But Emmanuel Sharp, folks forget, before his injuries in AAU basketball, was ranked top 60 in the country in high school. And then once he had the catastrophic injury to his leg, he was forgotten about by everybody else but Houston. And that's going to be their mistake. The Cougs are happy with Emmanuel Sharp. He's a great 3-point shooter. The rest of his game will come along. He's gotten in shape thanks to Coach Allen Bishop. He's lost weight, lost about 27 pounds. He's slim and trim, and his body's toned. And I was surprised, kind of, when he got an opportunity in transition that he was going to go up for like a layup or dunk. And I was like, the game's already over. So I was like, why are you doing this? Because I was in the back of my mind thinking, Emmanuel, you've been hurt, man. in situations like this. It's how you got hurt. Somebody going up for a layup and you get clocked or whatever. And he came down kind of awkward. So hopefully he'll learn from that, because he didn't really, layup was not necessary at that point in time. But 3-point shooting, Emmanuel Sharp is in line to be one of the best shooters on this team.
He looked like a scorer. He looked like he could score. It looked natural to me. I want to see how he continues to shoot. I'm not gonna go that far off one game, because one of them threes was off the glass. He's supposed to shoot it because he was already hot, and so I'm gonna pump the brakes and I'm want to see more. But he looked good though. He looked confident. He looked like a scorer. Like that's what a scorer looks like. Quick release, quick form, confident, pull up. Like he looked confident as a scorer. Like he looked like he knew what he was doing. And so I can't wait to see him develop more. Terrence looked good. But Emmanuel, he looked really, really good offensively. He looked like a natural scorer. Like his pull up, it looked like what you see in the NBA. That hezzy pull up off the dribble is what you see a lot of players do. Like Paul George, that's what he remind me of when I seen him. How he pulled up and kind of. Yeah, so I like it. I can't wait to see him continue to develop. I don't know how many minutes he's gonna get it. And one thing that stood out to me when we was watching Coach Sampson press conference was he talked about them fouling a lot in the scrimmages, and that's because they were playing better guards. The guards that they played today, I'm not gonna say they're not good, but they're not as good as the guards they're gonna be seeing at different schools. And he talked about them fouling. That's why he went and got referees in, because when they play better guards, they're going to be tested more. And then the rotation probably is going to get smaller as the season goes on. They probably play 8 or 9. That's what I want to see, because that's when those second units going to be tested when somebody's in foul trouble, whether it's Marcus, Jamal, Tremont, or whatever. And the game's tighter. You might be at home. You might be on the road. And so I can't wait to see when they play better competition to get better adjustment. But they look like Cougar basketball, defense, rebounding, and that's what Houston does with the talent. You see the talent, you see the length, you see everything on display there tonight.
And I want to say this about Emmanuel Sharp. Around when Emmanuel first got on campus, so maybe it was after they officially announced his signing, Coach Sampson kind of compared his game to Rob Gray, being a scorer/shooter, So if he progresses into that kind of level, man, oh man, the future's bright for Emmanuel Sharp here in the Houston Cougar program. So yeah,
I can see that. Yeah. For Coug fans who remember Rob Gray, that's exactly who he looked like. As far as his confidence, the way his swag on the offense. As far as you're right on the head with that one, Chris.
Because remember, Rob Gray defense was not Rob Gray's calling card when he first got to Houston. Man, so
yeah. You're right about that one. That's a good one.
As we begin to wrap things up here on Let's Rage Coogs, the inaugural Let's Rage Coogs of the men's basketball season, one of the positions we haven't touched on too much, and that's in the front court in particular. We touched a little bit on Jawan Roberts, but Reggie Chaney was the first big man off the bench. JVA Francis played a good portion of minutes, played 15 minutes, but Kelvin Sampson was high on JVA as well during the post game. But Chris, I'm gonna toss it over to you first. What did you see just from those three players in particular, Roberts, Chaney, and Francis in particular? I think Jawan Roberts, he got the start tonight, but he had about as great of a game that you could expect from that position in particular. He got in there, he got 6 rebounds. He actually finished with 12 total points, which the Cougars will take any day of the week in regards to him at that position. But just your overall thoughts.
Jawan Roberts, they went to him down low. He was an option on offense. They looked for him on post-up. I'm not just talking about him in the dunker spot. They look to him in the post, which goes to the Houston skill development. One of the calling cards that the staff hangs their hat on is they develop players in their time at Houston in the program. So Jawan Roberts, he's added to his game in the post. He's added to his game mid-range. We didn't see 3-point shot tonight, but he's worked on that too. So might see that at some point this season as well. But Jawan Roberts, a scoring threat. Who'd have thought that, last year? Reggie Chaney just does what Reggie Chaney does. Rebounds, hustles, throws his body around. And you add J.B. Francis to that, a shot blocking presence, physical presence, a different look for opponents. It's a three-headed monster right there. It's more looks for opponents to have to deal with going forward.
Yep. And J1, his making is going to be all of the dirty plays. He got the first score of the game, getting the steal, getting out in transition, getting out rebounds, and that's his calling card. I don't know if he's going to be an offensive threat. It's just
But he doesn't have to be.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's the game tonight. Who they play tonight, but better competition. I don't know if you're going to be feeding him on the block. But he did it with his thing tonight, and he continued to develop. He made that next step, 100%. But man, his energy. I think I seen him talking a lot to Jairus. I think his leadership is really, really looks like it's going to impact this team. And not only, you know what, I'm gonna compare him to somebody on the football team, Parrish. That's who he reminds me of. Just in his ability to affect the game with his energy, his tenaciousness, his aggressiveness. I think that's what he's going to bring to this team. I think some nights he will be in double-digit scoring. I think he can be average a double-double. I think he can do that. He can average 10 and 10 or maybe close to 8 and 10. I think Jairus would be around 10 to 12 a game. And Reggie looked healthy tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Reggie looked healthy. He caught it in transition, dribble and finish. Reggie looked really, really healthy tonight. And so the front court is a three-headed monster as far as J1 is not really a center, but he's in the post. But I can't wait to see continue to play better competition. I think they're gonna have a great season. But Javier too, man, he got a ton of potential. I think he's a little more gifted than Chris Harris, but he has that same defensive presence as far as shot blocking, his length, can catch oops and all that. I think on the offensive end, he's a little bit better offensively. I can't wait to see him continue to develop.
One of the underrated aspects when it comes to Juwan Robertson, we didn't even get to see, and it's something that at least during the preseason, throughout all of October, Chris, I know you've seen it multiple times. Him and Jarvis Walker, after their practices are in, they are shooting threes from all over the place, and they're just taking turns shooting threes, and that's something that we didn't really get a chance to see. But I'm curious to see as this season develops and even on to next season. I mean, that would be a layer to his game that would really give him an extra layer of versatility that we haven't been able to showcase, and something that we've seen in the past. Guys like Fabian White, where he started off, he was kind of like a mid-range specialist, and slowly throughout his course at Houston, he started stretching out beyond to last season when he was knocking down three-pointers with a level of certainty that he continued to get throughout his time at Houston. That's something that's going to be an underrated aspect. On your point of Reggie Chaney, Dayon, absolutely. There was I don't know if it was in a fast break, but there was a point where Reggie Chaney, I believe it was a fast break, and he had an athletic layup towards this end, towards where the media press is on the basket. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, Reggie, that's absolutely what you guys said in terms of health. That's awesome to see, especially in particular what he talked about last year, especially with the hand injury that he suffered, where there was a point he couldn't even make a full fist with his hand, which is crazy to think about. But obviously from what we saw in game one, that's what you want to see from a health standpoint. We're wrapping up, nearing the end. I'm gonna toss it over to you, Chris, just in terms overall takeaways, maybe one final note in regards to this game against Northern Colorado.
The takeaway is as we're wrapping up, is the media staff, UH, is wrapping up too. So I guess to kind of kick us out as well as we're doing everything here on Let's Rage Coogs Basketball Edition. But the Cougs are versatile offensively now. They're going to be led by Marcus Sasser, Jamon Mark. Jamal Shipp might get his. Jamal's going to get the assist. And then you got Jarris Walker. I mean, think about it. Jarris Walker is a 5-star, and he's going to be probably the 4th option in the offense right now. And then grow into that as the season progresses. Juwan Roberts is a 5th option, but Dan mentioned he might be a double-double threat. I mean, think about that. Your 5th option might be a double-double threat going forward this season. So the versatility is there for Houston. Northern Colorado may be the middle of the pack in the Big Sky this year, but there was a good chance for the Cougs to go against zone defense, which they probably will see a few more times this season. They did better in the second half against it, but that defense just locked down the Bears, held them 36 points. Not one player for Northern Colorado scored in double digits. So Houston Cougars defense did it once again. And Kelvin Sampson got win number 700 for his career and win number 200 in his UH coaching career.
Dayon, same question for you. I'm going to toss it over. What was one main takeaway you took away from this game?
Yeah, just like Chris, I was thinking versatility. That's exactly what I was thinking. Versatility. I think not only defensively but offensively, just like Chris said, they're going to be very, very versatile. Terrence, with his length, I think he's going to have a really big impact as the season goes on. I think there are going to be some lineups with either Jarris and J1 at the 5 spot with 4 guards, just depending on foul trouble, just depending on how the game goes on. And so versatility, 100%. I think they can beat you from outside. They can beat you driving, from scoring in the paint. I think they're going to be able to beat you from a plethora of ways. And so versatility is definitely what stuck out to me outside of the culture of rebounding in basketball. I agree with Chris 100%.
And kind of really a point to piggyback off of both of you guys in regards to versatility, but depth. This is something that it's a night and day difference from where they were a season ago. There were some games where they were just totting out 7-man lineups just because of injuries and really where they had gotten to a point. But in particular, they played 9 different guys. Well, they played 11 guys total. So we're gonna have to adjust, but they played 11 guys total. And that's going to be, it's a night and day difference from they were a season ago. It's going to be curious to see how they go as they transition.
Give me the mic. There we go. And he's got the frog in his throat. But I think what he wanted to say is they played 9 guys. 9 guys played at least 10 minutes of action. So that's part of the depth. And it's more talented depth. Coach Sampson won't say it. So we're going to say it for him. It's his most talented team here at Houston, but talent alone won't be enough for the Cougs to win ball games. They still got to play with the culture, still got to play tough, still got to rebound and defend, and they do that, combining it with the talent that this team has. The end goal, Dayon, you know the end goal. Your goal, I'm putting it out there in the universe for you, Dayon Dunlap, is for you to be here in April for the Final Four in Houston to watch the Houston Cougars in the Final Four.
100%. I'll be there for sure. Depth, talented depth. I agree with it. Only thing they lack is experience. Some of those. That's the only thing. And so as the season goes on, they continue to get that experience under their belt. By the time March, April rolls around, they're going to be rolling. I'm going to be right there for 100% for sure.
Okay, I'm back after my death. We're going to wrap it up. I need water. I need honey. But anyways, this was a very good inaugural men's basketball show, and I'm trying to wrap this up before my voice completely dies. But thank you, Dan, for hopping on, Chris, for being able to do this live from the Fertitta Center. Once again, the final score: Houston defeated Northern Colorado 83-36. Marcus Sasser led in all scores with 21 points. He went 4 of 8 from threes. Dan, I'm gonna toss it over to you. Where can people find you on Twitter, sir?
You can find me, just like my name says, under on my screen at Dayon Dunlap. Follow me Instagram. Before you follow me, just follow the show, Pod Slammer Jammer. Make sure you like and subscribe not only to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel that we're borrowing right now, that we're on right now, partnering with Chris. And so his website, everything. But thank you guys for continuing to allow me to be a part of it with you guys, man. I'm very appreciative.
And Chris, I'm gonna toss it over to you, sir. Where can people find you?
And I'm Chris Gardner of the Houston Round Bar Review. I'm glad Andy took the bulls by the horns and made these post-game shows possible. He had the idea because we were discussing it about a year ago that there was no post-game show in Houston for University of Houston athletics college teams. You know, we got post-game for the Texans and Astros and the Rockets, but there's nothing like this. So Andy's done a great job of making this a success. Thank you to D Skills H-Town, King Jaja, Kickface, everybody tuning in. Wanda Polk for your comments on the YouTube channel. Stephen Hiller. The next post-game show will be this Friday after the Cougs face St. Joseph's in Annapolis. That game is going to start at 5 o'clock. It's going to be on the CBS Sports Network. So we'll be doing Let's Rage Coogs after that game. So who knows, maybe around 8 o'clock roughly. But that'll be kind of a neutral site game in Maryland for that one. But thank you everyone for making this a success. And I'm going to mention this. We had a fan walk past us as he's leaving the Fertitta Center, going up the steps, saw Andy and said, "Hey, Let's Rage Coogs, you guys do a great job." So Andy's famous now, man. He's popular. People know who he is. They know the show. So onward and upward for Let's Rage Coogs.
Thank you, Chris. You took off so much from what I had to talk to, and I don't know if my voice would have made it. So I thank you enough for that. But absolutely, that was an awesome moment, just to be able to have people recognize Let's Rage Coogs, and like Chris said, that's the vision for it. Because the Rockets, the Texas, the Astros, by the way, obviously they had their parade today. So congratulations to the Houston Astros. But they have their own postgame show. University of Houston Athletics doesn't, and this could potentially be the Astros just won the World Series. This could potentially be that level type of the season for the Houston Cougars men's basketball team. I'm not going to ignore the comment. I failed today. I couldn't find Andy. I hate to refer myself in third person to get my shot. D-Skills H-Town, you're slacking, man. I was walking around before, and I even dressed up. I was all snazzy.
And he was here early, too. He was here early with the chance, and he blew it.
Maybe next time, the next home game for the men's basketball team will, a week from today, November 14th, Monday, against Oral Roberts in the Cougar Classic. So until then, thank you guys for tuning in. Like Dayon said, be sure to subscribe to the Houston Round Ball Review where you are watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio only version the day after, be sure to follow us both on YouTube, or subscribe to us both on YouTube, Houston Round Ball Review YouTube channel, the Pod Slam and Jamma YouTube channel. We're going to have clips of Kelvin Sampson, Marcus Sasser's post-game availabilities in case if you didn't listen during the show, and more that you didn't catch. Dana Holgerson's post-game availability, the clip, or not post-game, his weekly news conference. There's a clip of that for those of you that still want to rage about the football team. On that note, until next time, see you Friday as the Houston men's basketball team takes on St. Joseph's.